Hi guys, Connor here. I just wanted to give you a demo of how to upload files, basically how to host files for your users from a React Native app. I'm using an Expo app. To be honest, this is going to be a dramatic reading of this code base that I've made, and I'll have a GitHub link that you can go to, and you can also just skip this video and go read the code. But this will be explaining the code base, and it's a nice demo of how to actually host your user assets so that other users can see them. They have a backend, basically. So let's first of all let's get the app started, and I'll show you what the app looks like. One is we're going to run the backend. I'm using this node runtime called Bun for this. I'll explain why later, but don't worry, it is kind of agnostic. It's more of a demo of how to get things to work. So let's run our backend, and let's run our front end, which is using Expo. I'm using iOS to view everything here. And we have this dating app concept. You can actually see how it loaded there. This is actually a working concept right now that pulled this image from an S3 bucket that's live and like hosted on the internet. So we just have this dating app concept where users can upload profile pics to their dating profile. They will show up here and you can swipe through them. I only have one right now, so there's no swiping. And then there's this page. So that's the index page where you see your profile. This is where you make a post. You can go into there's no camera on the simulator, so you go and you add a picture and then you post it. But we'll look at that in a second. I just want to run you through, this gives you the ID. And that's what this little block is here. Let's run through what the architecture looks like for this. So we got a React Native app with a signed in user, and we need to host our images in a bucket somewhere. We do that because buckets are basically file systems on the web. You don't want to host your stuff in a DB. They're not meant for that. You want to host this in like a file system, and S3 is meant for that. That's actually the de facto standard, I'd say. But this could be any provider. We're just going to use S3 for this. And how hosting and getting images works to display on your React Native app is like so. You'll need a backend. So for this, we use Bun, but it could be any backend. It could be Express, it could be a Flask with Python, doesn't matter. And it's one endpoint with two methods. We're going to post to API/profile pics to post our picture. That'll take a picture posted into the backend. Our backend will stream this picture right into AWS S3. So that'll live there and be public. It'll get a URL and it'll create a database entry. So it'll create a new database entry with a new ID and then the public URL of this. Now, when we want to display that in the front end, we just make a get to this and it'll return all of our database entries, and we're able to use the public URLs to access the picture and display them on the app. So quite simple. So let's start with the front end. So let's see, this is the index page. Let's go into the front end. All right, we're going to go down here, and we'll show you mainly how the code works for the post and the get. That's what I want to focus on. Everything is in the README of how to run this. There's a README at the top level. There's a README in the front end level. Go into the app here, and you can see this is an Expo app. Is super simple. It's just 2 pages. And so index is that index page. You don't have to worry about all the React code or all the JSX, I should say. This is what we care about. First, we need to fetch. I think this is a bit easier, actually. Yeah, no, we'll just do it this way. This is how you fetch your profile pics from the backend. We get our profile pics, and then we reverse the order. And that's just so that the most recent one shows up first. So when we get we run this get, and all that does is run a fetch on the backend URL. And that backend URL is it's like localhost 3000, and it goes to this. With my headers. And so this is just my fake authorization. This should be your JSON web token, like for your signed in user. But for now, we just have this cool secret demo for the demo. And yeah, we'll return the JSON. The JSON actually looks like this. It'll be a list of IDs and the public URL of where the image is hosted. And it just turns that into a type using Zod. So you actually don't have to worry about that. But you can see it turns it into this nice little type from this request. So ID public URL. That actually... Well, we'll show you on the front end in a sec. So that is the get on the index, and then we go to the add profile pic page, and this is where the post happens. So that happens here in submit profile pic. You can ignore all this. This is what we care about. We upload the profile pic. That actually is right below this in the get, and We take an image, which is from our image picker. I mean, it could be from a camera as well. And it comes with this URI to it's the path locally on the phone. Turns that into form data. Form data is multi-part form data is just kind of the standard for sending files. If you don't know, you can look it up. I can also explain it more if you want another video. And we run another fetch to that same backend URL with the auth. And then also we make a post request this time, and we add that file form data. And we just return true or false here because all we need to know is it successful. So that looks like this. If we go, we take our picture. This opens our file picker for now. And we say we want to upload this. It opens successfully. Here, now we see that it's loading. And it's still loading. I'm just going to refresh this because it maybe got stuck loading, or no, there it goes. Well, yes. So you can see this is our picture, which is actually hosted. Yeah, that's the idea. And if we now look at our backend, so that's what the front end looks like. We now have 2 posts in our database. I should also say this is actually, you can see this picture in our S3 bucket. So here's our S3 bucket. It is this. I'll show you how to make this. Moderator demo apps. It has this folder, backend demo, that I made, and now you can see the second picture just popped up there at the newer time. But that's where the picture is hosted, and you can see when we go to the backend, here is our database. It's got this second picture in here. We're using a database called Low, very simple. This is the actual database, it's a JSON database. It's quite cute, to be honest, a very cute library. But let's run through what the backend actually looks like. So I'm using I'm using a node runtime called Bun. JavaScript runtime called Bun. And that doesn't really matter. You can use whatever backend you want, as I said. But Bun I did it because it's really simple. It's really nice for this little HTTP server it makes. And it also has this S3 client, which is just so simple for dealing with any sort of bucket. But here's how it works. You create a server, and I have one endpoint here, and that's it. It's /API/profilepics, and I've got 2 actions on my endpoint. So first we can do the post. This is sending the picture up. We authorize that the user is allowed to make this. We just check if they have cool secret. That should be the web token. And the main thing we do is create this busboy instance. Busboy just parses form data and will let you parse files from form data. And this endpoint is receiving that form data that I mentioned before. And what it does is when it receives a file, it works as an event. As each file it receives, we only send one. We give it a unique file name so that the files don't collide in S3. If they collide in S3, they will overwrite. And then we give it the path. So the path is actually that backend, where is it? This backend-demo/file name. And we create a writer, and then for each chunk of data we receive, we just stream that right into S3, as each chunk. It's quite simple, just like a pipeline straight through. When that file ends, we close the writer, and we create this new database entry, and we update the database. So that just sends that entry into the database. That'll end up here. And yeah, that's it. The profile pic is created. So that's what the backend looks like. That's what the post looks like to the backend. The get is dirt simple. We just check, are they allowed to make that request? And then we return the full database list of pictures. Yeah, that's the backend and front end. Very simple. You can run them with very simple commands. That's all in the README, as I said. The last thing is the S3 bucket setup. I can show you how to set this up. So when you create a new bucket, all you do is add your name, you unblock all public access, and you click create bucket. That'll create your bucket here. When your bucket's created, you can choose to create a folder, and then what you need to do is go into permissions and add a bucket policy to allow get object on. Make sure you change your bucket name to your bucket name, and that's it. Then this will be a public bucket, and that's one thing to watch out for. This bucket is completely public. So when you go here, this is public to the internet. So this is live right now, and that is potentially dangerous. You may not want users to see these photos. For example, if there's private photos that only the logged in user should see, you're going to need to use a different option. I can explain that in a sec. But yeah, these are public on the internet. But this works. And just as a quick overview, that's the whole thing. That's the app. This is a totally valid way of hosting user content. with S3 for your app. Really easy to, like, really straightforward, probably the easiest flow for this. I will say the caveats are that the images you host are public to everyone, which you may not want because users, maybe only one user should see this. For us, we want all users to see all photos because it's a dating app. The other thing is, theoretically, a scraper, if they figured out your file naming system, they could go and scrape all your data because it's public. The way around this is to actually start using signed URLs. So signed URLs are a little bit of a fancier setup than here, but it's a bit more secure and a little bit faster. The idea there is that you actually post a picture directly to S3, and so that also saves you like this round trip. And also each user gets their own URL for the image that's hosted, and it can be revoked whenever you want. So it's a bit more safe. But that's for another video. Let me know if you guys want to see that. Thank you for watching anyway. Feel free to ask any questions. I'll try to answer them in the comments. Thanks.